boxed all your children, you can create these nice classroom overviews and have a quick grasp of the social, emotional, behavioral difficulties in your classroom. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us at florentina@nurturegroups.org and we'll be happy to help. So the first thing you need to do is open the spreadsheet I've sent you with all your school data. So usually it's called the school name, boxed data, and date. Double click. So this is how the spreadsheet looks like. So you've got all your EBP codes here, the birth date of the child, the gender, the date when the code was collected. And remember, one row is one boxed profile. So when you scroll down, you'll start seeing all the boxed profile data, so from A to Z. The first thing you could do is check that there's no missing information. So for example, here you already notice there's some one boxed that has missing information with not applicable. If you scroll down, you can also see, or you can identify here, some year groups are missing. So it's just for you to have a nice overview of how your data looks like. So the next thing you can look for is the year column, which is the year group, and the class name, which you indicated, and then all the other columns are information you indicated when you filled out the boxel. So what you can do first is hide some columns which are not very useful for you at the moment. For example, the school name and the district, that all of the data will be the same for these ones. So to hide columns, what you have to do is select all of them by hovering with your mouse over the columns and drag over all the columns you want to hide, and then right click and click here on hide. So all these columns are now hidden, but you can still access them. The other columns you might want to hide at the moment are nurturing context, assessment context, and so on. Even current support, you might not need that at the moment. And same, you have to select all of them, right click, and then click on hide. So now your data looks a little bit easier to look at. So let's say you want to have the classroom overview for the year ones. So here you can click on these little arrows to filter your data. So you can see all these year groups are here at the moment. You unselect all of them and only select the ones you are interested in. So let's say year one. You click and click OK, and now you've got all the data for the year ones. Now let's say you want to look only at one class, which is the Poplar year ones. So again, for the class column, you can unselect all of them and select only the ones you want to look at. And now you've got all your data for the Poplar year ones. So now that you've done that, you can open your template for the classroom overview. So for primary schools, you'll have the classroom overview for primaries, and for secondary, make sure to use the secondary classroom overview because it's different data and different norms. So you double click on this. So here you have an example already with data that was pasted in. So you can see you can change the year names and put the ones you're interested in. You can also add the names of your children in these columns, change the EBP codes, change the gender of your children, and so on. So this is all the data you're gonna have to put from A to Z. And remember, in that spreadsheet as well, one row is one child. For each strand, you'll have the data, the score for that strand for that child. If the cell is green, it means the child is in the normal range of scores for that strand. If, let's say for a strand X for that child, that cell is orange, that means the child is outside the normal range of scores for that strand. So the other thing you can see is these two last columns. they're basically giving you the sum for that child of scores that are outside the norms. So let's say for the first child, none of the scores are outside the norm, and that's why there's no orange. So there's a 0 here. And for the diagnostic profile, 3 out of 10 scores are outside the norm, so there's a 3 here. Okay, so the same for all the rows, all the children. And at the bottom, you can see another sums here. So these ones are for individual strands. So let's say for strand R here, you can see there's 11 children who have difficulties. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So you have 11 children who have difficulties with strand R, and you can see here strand R is self-negating. So you have 11 children in that classroom who show difficulties with self-negation. So let me show it a little bit better. So already from here you can see which strands are the most difficult in your classroom and which ones there is not so many problems. So for example, for strand B, none of the children showed any difficulties. So that seemed quite, they don't seem to have much difficulties for these ones. But for the diagnostic, there's a lot of red, so there seems to be quite a few difficulties with that. The other thing you can look at is these two cells here. So these are the average. So on average, in your classroom, each child has one strand with difficulties, showing difficulties for the developmental strands. And here 2 means on average, each child has difficulties on 2 strands for the diagnostic. So this is just to give you a kind of average scores for the classroom. So now what you want to do is basically paste your own data for the classroom you're interested in. So to do that, you'll have to delete the data that is already in there. So select all the data you want to delete and highlight it. Now that you've deleted, you can click on your keyboard delete button, so that all the data will disappear. And you can see even in, you shouldn't select the developmental and diagnostic columns. Only select data for EBP codes, gender, and A to Z. Don't delete developmental and diagnostic, because these 2 columns, they'll be filled out automatically by the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet will do that for you. So now there's no more data, so there's also no more data in these 2 columns. So now that you've done that, you go back to your initial spreadsheet with your classroom, all your classroom data, and you select the EBP codes, highlight all the EBP codes you want, right-click, and click on copy. So now you've copied the data. It's with that little frame around the data you've copied. You go back to the classroom template, select the cell in which you want to paste the data, right-click and paste here. So now all your EBP codes are pasted. Go back to your school data. You can select the gender if you want, and again, right-click and click on copy. Again, now it's copied here. Go back to the classroom overview, right-click, paste. So now you've got the gender as well. And the final thing is copy and pasting the voxel profile. So selecting all the data you want to paste, right-click and click on copy. Go back to the template and again paste your voxel profile. So now you've seen we've only pasted that data, but all the data here came back as well, because now the formulas can work with the information to create these sums. So what else I want to talk to you about? So you can see here already that because there was missing information in your initial spreadsheet, there's these funny hashtags. So you can delete these ones by clicking on your keyboard, delete. And now there's missing data for that child, and there's no information for the diagnostic profile because there's no data to make the sum out of it, okay? So if you identify a child who has missing data, you need to go back to your Boxall profile online, type in the EBP code, and look up that child, look up that assessment, and check why is the data missing, and perhaps input the information again, okay? The final thing I'm thinking you should notice is here you've got two children, two EBP codes that are the same. This means for that EBP code for that child, there were two Boxall profiles, so you need to select one of them. You only want one of them in your classroom overview because it's the same child. You only want each child once in that classroom. So to decide which one you want to keep in that classroom, go back to your school data and check when the profiles were made. So for example, for that EBP code, there are two. This one was done in April, this one was done in May. So perhaps a good point is keeping the most recent one because it's probably the most up-to-date one. So you know the second one was the oldest one, so you can remove. Go back to your template and remove the second one, which is this one. And to do that, you select all the data you want to delete. Right click, and this time you're going to click on delete the rows, and now all your data is going to move up, and that data you wanted to delete is gone. Also, what you can do is, this is now your classroom overview for the year ones. So you can indicate here, change the name year one Poplar, let's say. You can add the names of your children. You can save this new file, save as, HowToGuide, classroom overview, year one Poplar, to make it easy for you to find it again. Save, okay. So now you can see there's a lot of empty rows because maybe in that classroom you don't want so much data. So what you can do is, again, select all the empty rows you want to delete, right click, delete table rows, and now all your data is switched up. And now you've got all the nice classroom overview for the Boxall profiles. And you can see here something I didn't mention, all the table of correspondence between the strands and what they measure. So for example, A measures purposeful attention, so you can refer back to that to identify which are the areas where your children are having difficulties. So also, now that you've done that, you can go back to your school big spreadsheet and again select, let's say this one, select all the year groups or a new year group you want to look at, let's say year 2, and again do the same. And again do the same thing, pasting the data back in the template to create a new classroom overview. So this is the end of our HowToGuide video to create Boxall classroom overviews. And if you have any questions, please email us at florentina@nurturegroups.org. I hope this was useful and that you'll be able to implement this in your school with your children. And we hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.